Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Money and Politics. We're joined today by my son Thomas, who many of you are familiar with, and we're going to be talking about Nextech, which you see the symbol here just above my head, the stock symbol NEXCF. And I will say, for the purposes of just background, that Thomas brought this to my attention probably about 2.5 years ago. I would say in the spring of 2020, as I recall. The price at that time was, for a while there, in the somewhere between like $4 to $7. It was bouncing back, and I like a lot of people in Nextech, got out of the stock after a while because I didn't like the way it was performing and kind of gave up on it. Now, more recently, the stock price, after having fallen, like just about everything else has, the stock price fell precipitously. Thomas brought back to my attention that things were gelling, the business lines were changing, and he had never gotten out of it, and he had continued to follow the stock stock over the years. So I wanted him to really be kind of bringing us up to speed more on Nextech, because he's really, of the two of us, the one who's the expert on that. So Tom, why don't you take it from here? Kind of tell us, why should someone look at Nextech?
Yeah. I did not get out of Nextech. The story of what they were doing just kept getting better and better. And so as an investor, we got this awesome opportunity where when I first bought in 2020, the summer of 2020, you bought in at about $2 a share, and a few weeks later, like a lot of stocks did at the time, it just skyrocketed up. And the next thing you know, the shares you bought for $2 were trading at an all-time high of $7.42. The story of Nextech, their business has kept getting better and better and better. The share price had not gotten better and better and better. The share price had gone from the all-time high of $7.42 to below a quarter on June 9. It fell below 25 cents. It went from being a very overvalued company financially in 2020 to having a market cap in early June that matched its 2021 revenues, 25 million in revenue in 2021 and a market cap of 25 million. So in the span of 2 years, the share price fell to where it shouldn't have been that high, and then it never should have been that low. But as I said, this was a blessing because the story, their business, kept getting better and better. So I've been able to accumulate a hell of a lot of shares at these insanely discounted prices. And I'll get into, what Nextech does in a little bit. But it's not just me saying it's insanely discounted prices. Zacks Small Cap Research gives Nextech a price target of $1. Singularity Research gives Nextech a price target of $1.50. H.C. Wainwright gives it a 12-month price target of $2.50. So here you have this company that is just now hitting its stride after 4 years of business. They turned 4 years old on Halloween of 2022. It's just now taking off, and the share price is at 80 cents. Not the $7.42 all-time high back from the summer of 2020. It's at 82 cents. So there's been this amazing window here where the share price is so heavily discounted at the perfect time when the company is just now ready to go. So we'll get more into what it is that Nextech does with their 3D modeling, their spinoff of ARway. But after 2.5 years of being invested, it does feel very good, very rewarding to now see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's the excitement that comes from seeing your share price go from $2 to $7.42. There's a different kind of excitement that comes when it's happening. The business is taking off. The business has succeeded. And now it's go time. and you can see that they're ready to take off. So
yeah, with that,
you can have the share price go amazing, but it's very different when now it's the business is solid.
Let's talk just for a minute, and then I want to play the sound clip of the CEO. But talk to us about what is their business lines and what's been happening very recently that's very encouraging, and why we think investors might want to take a look at this stock.
Nextech's main source of revenue right now is 3D models that they make for e-commerce. So as you were saying the other day in one of your videos, everything that you see online for sale tends to be in a 2D photo. What they do is turn those 2D photos into 3D models so that you can click on something. You take a look at a shoe, you're looking at the top, you can see the bottom, you see it from the sides, you can see inside the shoe. The reason why 3D models are effective is that Nextech has found with their 3D models that it leads to a 90% higher click rate. And this is very important, especially at a time when the economy is struggling and companies need to save money. It also leads to 40% fewer returns of products, which is outstanding for their customers' bottom lines when their products aren't being returned so often, because now customers get a better idea of what it is they're buying. They also have a product that is in its beta mode. It's going to be released either later this month or next month. It's called Toggle 3D. It is a software that Nextech provides that allows for the creation of 3D models on a smaller scale, as well as the editing of those 3D models. You change the colors, you change the patterns. So not only are they making 3D models for these companies, they then get to sell the software product to those companies and individuals on a smaller level. Let's say those who are really only looking to make about 5 3D models or 10, and they don't really need Nextech's full service. They could just use Toggle 3D. That business is just now taking off because it is artificial intelligence that creates those 3D models. So when I got invested back in 2020, I was waiting for this moment when the AI had gotten so efficient that instead of it taking 5 days to make several hundred 3D models, it now takes an hour or two. So the ability for Nextech to now scale this business is far greater than it was when I first got in. I've been waiting for this to happen. So their ability to make money now through their tech sector is just skyrocketed. That ability is now skyrocketed. You mentioned it the other day. Why is everybody in Nextech excited? The A word. We got the A word back in July. Amazon. That Amazon is now a customer of Nextech. Nextech's name will be on Amazon's website either in December or early January, listed as a preferred partner for making 3D models. Nextech will then have access to the individual merchants on Amazon's website, their business, so that these individual merchants can now use Nextech to make 3D models for them. That's in addition to the clients they already have through Napa Auto Parts, Kohl's, Crate and Barrel, IKEA. I don't believe Kmart is still in operation in the United States, but there is a Kmart Australia. And we're looking, it's not a guarantee, but we're looking to Nextech adding Walmart and Target to their client list. That could happen over the next coming weeks. Maybe it happens over the next coming months. But they've got the ability to ramp out production now that they didn't have. They're adding
let me bring in
customers everyone knows.
Yeah, just for
so you might want to play that video clip now.
I will just a sec, but let me, this is Yahoo Finance. As you can see, this is the Nextech page. When you scroll down, you see the news stories. And what you can see here, the first line, the first news item that came out just 5 days ago, Nextech AR launches breakthrough AI, artificial intelligence, to scale its 3D model production capacities and files new patent. And what the what the CEO said the other day was that if someone came to them and said they needed 500 3D models for different products,
For a rug, he used, yeah,
he
for
used a rug as
yeah,
an example, but it could be anything. That would have taken
not
them
everything, no. But, okay.
whatever. That would have taken them at least a week, I think he said. And
It could take 5 days, yeah.
now when he asked his crew, how long would it take us? They said an hour or two. So their capacity is now so much greater, and that's where they're drawing the attention of, as you mentioned, they have Amazon, and the way he described it is when we have Amazon talking to us at the table, it's as if Target and Walmart are outside in the waiting room, his words. So he didn't say we have them, but he said that it basically, reading between the lines, I think that he's confident enough to use that terminology that Target and Walmart, would also eventually become a customer. So let me play then. They had their third quarter earnings report. He's going to just be talking about how the revenues from their tech sales, the 3D modeling and all, have gone up, but also their profit margins have gone up. Let's listen to that.
I believe that we're going to see triple-digit sequential growth continue. And so that's really the story here. You know, our Q3 numbers, our technology service revenue up 66% sequentially over Q2. Our 3D modeling revenue surged 192% sequentially over Q2. Our 3D technology service gross profit margin went to 60% versus 37%. That's like an 80% increase in gross profit margin, which is huge. If you look at our gross profit historically, I don't remember the last time we had a 60% gross profit margin. The reason why the gross profit margin is getting beefed up is because we've exited the e-com business, which was high dollars, low margin business. Now, the dollars are a little lower because we're transitioning, so it's temporary, but the margins are surging.
What's important about the revenues that he mentioned is the tech revenues. The 3D modeling revenues are going up. Why do I make that distinction? Someone might go, well, I don't know why this is a company that you're interested in. They did 25 million in revenue in 2021. They're going to do half that in 2022. Why is this a good thing if their revenues have gone down by 50%? As Nextech is working on their artificial intelligence, they're waiting for this moment when they got to be able to produce these models at an incredible scale. They had originally practiced creating models on vacuum cleaners and pet supplements. And the company that they had made these 3D models for found out that the models were very effective in bringing revenue into their businesses. So Nextech, to use those companies as a sandbox, bought them. So for the past 2 years, most of their revenue is not coming from their technology stack. It was coming from vacuum sales and pet supplements, and to a lesser extent during COVID when they had a virtual events platform. So the overall revenues were down, but nobody was investing in Nextech, or is Amazon a customer of Nextech because previously they'd been selling vacuums. We're all in it for the 3D capabilities. And as Evan was saying in that video clip,
Evan Gappelberg, the CEO.
The profit margins on the 3D models is incredibly high. The vacuum stuff, not, right? So the company is in their transition. They're selling off their e-commerce part of the pet supplements and the vacuums. Now they're doing what it is that they were started to do. They have that capability. The revenues are starting to go much higher. They have a $700,000 order that they're going to be completing in Q4. They have the 6.7 million contract lined up for 2023. They're getting renewals on contracts from several customers. They're adding more customers. So even though the overall revenue was lower, the revenue of the thing that we invested in, their tech stack, that's now going much, much higher. That's why it's a very exciting time for me to finally see everything come into fruition after 2.5 years for me and 4 years for Nextech.
I'll use an analogy. I mean, when we look at SpaceX, and they've been successful of late shooting up rockets, but in the beginning they weren't. They had, people might remember, they had rockets kept blowing up shortly after takeoff. And so this is a company now that is, as you said, been operating, I think you said, for 4 years.
4 years on Halloween. They're just barely over 4 years old now.
And the clip, I know there was a lot of numbers there. I took some notes. So let me just repeat, as far as now they're at that verge where they were working towards. And Gappelberg, the CEO, said our Q3 tech services revenues were up 66% over Q2. Our 3D modeling revenues up 192% over Q2. And the 3D tech gross profit went up 60% versus 37% in the past. So their revenues are up and their margins are getting better. And as we already said, their capacity to do more modeling. And so, folks, instead of going, or when you now in the past have been going to Amazon, let's say, and you're looking at a photograph, a 2D photograph, you know, that's brought Amazon a lot of business. But imagine now where, you know, you're going forward, this is the wave of online shopping and begin, you'll be able to take those products and look at them and turn them around and see the whole design of whether it's a tennis shoe or whatever it is. The other thing that Gappelberg said in the recent interview was he was saying that if a retailer out there wants a price, they can send us a photograph of what they want a 3D model of. Let's just say it's a tennis shoe. And they have a system, Nextech has a system now that's automated, so it can automatically get back to the retailer and said that photograph of the tennis shoe would cost this much. And then the retailer can say, yes, go ahead, or no. So what could be a cumbersome problem with a bunch of labor, they've automated it. So that's something I really like, the automation that's involved here, the AI on the developing of the 3D model and the automation of the ordering of the product. So,
and everything's being streamlined. And, you know, a couple things to clarify. You know, Nextech will not be the only company doing 3D modeling for Amazon and some of these other companies, but they are going to be one of the larger players in that business. Another, you had mentioned, you know, revenue source. I mean, one of the other abilities they're going to do is when they make these 3D models, that's like their intellectual property. They own the 3D model. So when that model gets posted, let's say on Amazon, they make money, right? If the client then, that merchant, wants to also post it on Shopify or WooCommerce, which Nextech also has relationships with, they get revenue when it's on Shopify, and then again when it's on WooCommerce. So even when the same 3D model, I mean, yes, you get paid to create it, but then that you have that intellectual property. So then when you post it onto these different websites for that customer, you're getting paid again and again and again. So you don't just make money once, you're potentially making money off one model several times over. And that's also a part of the business that is going to, you know, ramp up revenues over the future as people embrace 3D modeling. You know, it took a while for that to happen. It wasn't just the AI wasn't quite there. It was also, you know, the CEO saying companies were just kicking the tires on this stuff. Okay, you know, we'll take 50 models, we'll take, you know, 100 or so. Now they see the utility of it. Mm-hmm. and Nextech can provide it. And now they're all jumping on board, and Amazon will be putting out a press release either in December or early Q1, it could be January, that will discuss their launch into the 3D modeling space. So this is, you don't know about this now, most of the people watching, unless you're invested in Nextech or some Amazon exec, you don't know that. But Amazon will be making that declaration here soon about how they are turning all of their products that they have into 3D models. And Nextech will be one of the people working with Amazon to do that. That news is all going to come out here in the very short-term future.
By the way, Gappelberg also said, he goes, corporate Amazon is one thing, the corporation saying we're going to have stuff. But he said, add to that, how many different merchants are on Amazon, running businesses on Amazon, and as this, they're their own businessmen using the platform, there can be all that business coming in from them as well. And as we said, which Gappelberg had alluded to, the expectation, not official, but the expectation is that probably during 2023, they would have some deals going in with Target and Walmart.
This is all a lot of words to say. It's freaking awesome right now to be in this company right now. I mean, I thought it was awesome when I wake up and I see the press release. Hey, we got a contract for $700,000. I'm like, hell yeah, $700,000. Like 3 days later, they go, yeah, $6.7 million. I'm like, holy, I'm not expecting that at all. I thought maybe in 2023 that a $7 million order. Like, holy hell, that's happening right now. And I mean, so yeah, after 2.5 years and being with the company, and it's not all a straight line up. It's things go right. There's some things that go wrong. It takes time. But yeah, that's why are we talking about Nextech right now? Because this is the inflection point. They've reached it. We weren't ready to talk about Nextech
and to put the 7 million in context, in 2021 their total revenues were 17.7.
I think that's incorrect, or that might be 17 American but 25 Canadian. I think the Yahoo numbers might be incorrect.
Well,
but let's put it in the context of this. Their market cap. This isn't they have a $2 billion market cap and oh wow, you got a $7 million contract. Their market cap is 80 million. They had a single deal for 7 million. Do you understand now when I was saying how insane it was that the market cap was 25 million in early June? How insane it was? So hell yeah, I was buying because you people are freaking insane. I didn't even know they were going to announce this deal. The market cap is still so low. I mean, you're trading at like 11 times that one deal, and they have many other deals to do. I'm not saying they're all going to be 7 million, maybe $1 million here, $1 million there, some for $500,000, but there's going to be more. And you're looking at this like, why are you people just handing me your gold? I cannot believe you have let it get to this insanely low share price.
I think for a couple of reasons. One, just as I have said before, I never looked at penny stocks for 30 years. And as I mentioned, Humble was the first, and people might even go, or I might even say, and people now having seen what happened to Humble is kind of why I stayed away from the penny stocks. That's not a knock on Humble. It's just that the penny stock market is something that a lot of bigger investors don't go on. And to that point, Gappelberg, in the interview, and it was an hour-long interview, so he talked on a number of items, but said, look, eventually NASDAQ will go to it. They had thought, which we didn't talk about, Nextech had thought that they were going to go in the past they thought it was imminent to go on NASDAQ. It didn't happen. I think that is also one reason why some of the investors in the past might have thrown in the towel on this stock because that didn't happen.
And I can comment on it. Yes, I mean it's one thing to go, okay, yeah, they announced in July of 2020 that they were going to apply to uplist the NASDAQ, and the CEO had said that, hey, we think it's imminent, and it didn't happen. Ultimately, it was something like their auditing firm wasn't large enough. They wanted them to use a bigger company for auditing. And within that time period, the share price had fallen down. So at that point, it's like, well, we're not even going to bother anymore. But it didn't get to 25 cents off the NASDAQ thing not happening. That was more than a year ago. I mean, maybe you don't get the NASDAQ, but I'm talking about they still have revenues. I mean, you still have to value this company on what its revenue numbers are. And that's why I go, I understand why some people had sullen off because NASDAQ didn't work out. But to let it get as insane as it did, that was for a whole, other purpose. So maybe they will indeed go to NASDAQ, as he said, if they do get the $5 or $10.
I want to repeat something talking about revenues. I want to repeat something that I think was said, but it's easy for people to miss some of this. In the past, one of their business lines, Nextech's business lines, was selling vacuum cleaners, which really doesn't fit into the purpose of why the company got going. But
well, no, I told you that,
hang on, let me just explain. Gappelberg was using that because it was a revenue source, and they could sell vacuum cleaners, and it helped them pay the bills. What Gappelberg said, they've now gotten out of that. They've gotten rid of because they no longer need it. He sees the growth. And so I want to finish this thought though before, what he said, and to emphasize that, because he said big revenue numbers, but very low profit on that. It was big volume, low profit, just like grocery store sales. Whereas what they're doing now with the 3D modeling, the tech services are much larger margins of profitability, and they don't need the revenues to generate a lot more bottom line income. Also, we should say right now they are not yet profitable. Gappelberg said that they're going to be adding more people. They're ramping up their human capacity in 2023. But he said it's possible, if things go the way they hope they will, that the company could be cash flow positive. They're not cash flow positive yet. So what we're telling the investors here is why we see the promise of this company, because it's not just someday this is going to happen. We're seeing it now. They were getting orders before when you were talking about the 700,000, holy cow. And then within days of that, we got the $6.7 million order. They had been getting orders before of like $40,000 in that range. So these were huge step ups. And this is a company now that it's not just saying the potential is for revenues to explode. We're already beginning to see it with those two orders. And the way the revenues, as Mr. Gappelberg said in the soundbite, have gone up so much sequentially in Q3 over Q2. And that did not include the $700,000 order. That'll be in Q4. And that does not include the 6.7, which will be in 2023.
Yes. Yeah. It's, because I know we're not going to keep going on and on and on, but this is why when you're investing in a startup, which is a brand new thing, 3D modeling, which is not taken off, you got to give it time. It's based off tech. It's also, maybe this is the point I should make. It's also their success was going to be based off what other companies did. Apple's going to be coming out with their glasses, which will work with for 3D and as part of the metaverse. So, and you will see 3D modeling start taking off with more and more people using these kinds of glasses. And we should probably get into AR way here in a moment. My point is, all of this takes time. It took years just to get to the point where we are now. It will take, a couple more years if your investment to really see the big payoff, barring, some kind of crazy run, that's not based off fundamentals. And this is the point where, when I was kind of joking about the guy who was in Humble, and I think the last time I was on, which was more than a year ago, well, I've been here for 7 months and I'm a long-term investor and I'm not rich yet. It's like, dude, it's a startup with blockchain technology that nobody knows about yet. And it takes time to educate the market and just secure funding and get your products out and then hope that you're successful and people start buying. It takes time. And we're seeing that. And that's why, when some people were saying that stuff, I was like, I've been in Nextech. Let me tell you, it's like I said on the first video I did with you. I don't think we're going to the moon with Humble anytime soon. I also didn't think the share price was going to the seventh circle of hell, but I also never would have imagined Nextech share price would have gone as low as it has to these ridiculous levels. It takes time, and it's important to, if you're gonna put a fair amount of money into a company, as I've done with Nextech, you gotta follow the story, you gotta be patient. When the NASDAQ thing didn't work out, it's like, okay, the auditing firm, but they were hiring people from Apple. They'd hired people from Microsoft. I mean, the former executive global vice president from SAP, a multi-billion-dollar company, was this chief operating officer at Nextech. Those people are not joining Nextech to be paid in shares to join, some bullshit penny stock company. So when things don't always work out as the NASDAQ thing didn't, you got to look, well, who's working for these people and what's the likely reason? Because this was a scam. Did they trick all these people? You got to use common sense. And I think going back to why the share price fell, partially these ridiculous levels, a lot of people just weren't using common sense. They weren't seeing the big picture. I mean, it's one thing to have the share price go down as everybody's share price has gone down in a bear market. It's another when people think, they're going to get rich quick. There are a lot of people in 2020 in Nextech. We're all going to be rich. There's always that one guy. It's going to be $100 a share next year. All of those people are nowhere to be found right now. There's one person on the Yahoo Finance board that I remember from the 2020 days. All the we're going to get rich quick guys, they're gone. And they're gone at a time that the company has finally hit its stride. They're gone at a time when the share price is still like 80% down from its all-time high, when everybody was happy to buy at $7.42. And now they ain't around to buy at 80 cents or 70 cents or 65 cents. The point of all this is have patience. My father, you, Terry, you're in the more ideal situation. You're getting back in the Nextech now when everybody's kicking ass. Andrew's getting, my brother, he's getting in now. But, you guys are more in the ideal situation.
I was going to say, Tom, and we've already gone like a half an hour, so the thing is, hopefully in the big picture, we've given people some solid reasons why. In addition to the 3D modeling, and we won't have the time because otherwise this will be an hour and a half show, but they also have some things they're working on, the Toggle 3D. Can you just say what?
Yeah, I mentioned Toggle 3D. Okay. Toggle 3D is their software service that they offer. It's going to be released. It's in beta. It's going to be released in its full form either this month or next month. And that's their editing software that will allow people to make some 3D models of them, make some 3D models of their own, but at a smaller scale. And it will also allow for the editing of those 3D models. So the CEO is very excited about Toggle 3D. And so, like I said earlier, it's not just Nextech making the models. They then get to sell the software that allows for the editing of those models to the customer. So it's just more revenue that they're going to be able to bring in. And we probably don't have a lot of time to talk about ARway, but... Well,
I was just going to say ARway is a spinoff that just happened. And Gappelberg, the CEO, said there's when we talk about revenues, he goes, there's $26 million in ARway value because Nextech is the largest shareholder in ARway with 13 million shares. And he said there's $26 million in ARway value that is not reflected in the Nextech share price.
Yes.
So he also said he said he goes, well, one of the reasons at first when we were talking in the past where the stock price went up to 5 and 7 back in 2020, he goes, people thought we were a Zoom competitor
Well, yeah.
during the pandemic, and he goes, that's not, they didn't understand what we were about. But he said, basically, he said that they are financially, they're financially stable now. And again, as I said earlier, he said that in 2023, we could, not necessarily would, could possibly go cash flow positive. But, it's the kind of thing where you could have explosive growth. Obviously, the overall economy could impact some of this because maybe their customers or potential customers in the future, maybe they go with it, right? Sooner rather than later. Maybe some of them decide to wait until the economy turns around some. There's always, folks, things that happen beyond the control of any company. And as I think anyone who has done any kind of investing over the years knows, there's always risk. And you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. But the current share price at 81 cents, this is for the reasons Tom and I have gone over. And I had mentioned it in the past, before I took the break to run for public office. We had talked about this somewhat, but now it's a good time to come back to this, and that's why we're bringing this to your attention, because literally just in the last, month or so, there's been this really kind of developments with these orders and the spinoff
In
of
terms of the
AR.
numbers, yes, Amazon was announced on July 12th.
Okay.
And I'm gonna add something in here. Amazon was on July 12th. On July 15, 3 days after Nextech announced Amazon was a customer, the Pokemon character from Seeking Alpha, Golden Panda, decided to put out a hit piece saying, "I don't see how Nextech will be making money in the near future." 3 days after they announced Amazon was a customer, the guy didn't bother to read the press releases from Nextech from 3 days ago. So when you read jackasses on Seeking Alpha putting out hit piece, that's about the level of research they put into their pieces. Hey, maybe I should look if there's something that amazing happening with Nextech so I don't sound like an idiot when I put out this hit piece. Could I look at the recent press releases? No, the hell.
Well, let's just
say
say here that the point is,
the point is, do your own research and don't listen to people who just completely miss this stuff. Amazon was announced in July. The figures, the numbers were announced, yes, in like the past month, the 700,000 to 6.7 million. So all of this is just kind of accumulating now.
And this is why I had gotten out of the stock. We talked about 2020. You had stayed in. I gotten out. And I just got back in July and made an initial small purchase, but I've been adding to it all along. And, it's been nice to be reintroduced to it. And that's why, thanks to Thomas kind of keeping me updated as these developments, we both thought it's, time to bring this to your attention, because this is a company where it's not just someday something good is going to happen. The good things, they're starting to really see some major developments here, and who knows what the stock price will do in the future, but there's certainly reasons to be enthusiastic, as Thomas has demonstrated, that enthusiastic about what could happen here in the future on Nextech. Tom, I'll let you have some closing comments if you want.
Yeah, and the CEO said we're in the first inning, right? It took 4 years for this company to get to the first inning where they are. So I have no idea what the share price is going to do, over any time period. I think long term, 2-3 years from now, it will,
Well, we don't want to say what the share price is going to do because we don't have a crystal ball.
No, I'm talking about long term, because what we're seeing is the numbers come in for the revenue. We're going to start seeing this transition into 3D modeling from 2D. So you never know what's going to go on in the short term with the economy where it is. If nuclear war breaks out and, I'm nothing but, a heap of ashes. I'm not really going to care about what my Schwab account is doing, So I don't know what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. There's too much insanity on a global level going on right now. What is certain is that Nextech is taking off. When I first bought it in 2020, that's hey, I hope one day. Now we're not at the hope stage. Now we're at the, oh my God, this is happening, and it's happening quick. And it's a very exciting time. I'm glad I was finally able to come on and talk about Nextech because, I've been in Nextech for a long time, followed this company very closely for a long time, and now was the time to start talking about it. So I'm glad I got to come back on the show.
And where is it traded, Thomas?
Where is it traded?
I mean, what platform is it? It's not on the NASDAQ. Where is it?
No, it's on the OTC.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you see, folks, right up there, NEXCF is the stock symbol. Take a look at it. Do your own research.
Let me just add real quick. ARYF is for ARway. That's the stock symbol for ARway.
That's the spinoff.
We didn't talk about it today, but that's the spinoff. And those two, they are separate companies, but those two companies are intertwined. But so I just wanted to add that.
Gappelberg, by the way, was asked, why are you spinning off these companies? And he said it would just be, he said, because we're not a $1 billion company, we can't just hire people basically without concern of the cost. So he's managing cash flow. And he said the best way to have this develop is to spin it off. And
it raised money for ARway. That's now a $26 million asset for Nextech.
Right.
That didn't exist for Nextech when they owned ARway.
It's a way that Nextech can benefit from it growing, but they don't have to. It's kind of like raising your kids and then your kids move out of the house, but maybe you go into business with them.
Yeah. So we didn't really have time to talk about that. It's an indoor wayfinding application. That's also kind of reached its inflection point after it was acquired by Nextech.
Is it fair to say the indoor, basically you go to an airport, as one example, there would be many applications, but just like we have, if you're driving somewhere, you've got the computer as you're driving that tells you where to go, make a right turn in 500 yards. This would be kind of applicable like that. So if you're getting off a plane in an unknown airport and you got to go to gate 15, you could have, the way I'm interpreting this, directions inside a major facility on how to get to where you want to go.
Yes, and people will be using ARway. I mean, technically it's pronounced Arway, but they will be using ARway in airports, in stadiums, hospital systems, malls. Over the course of in the future, yes, you will be using ARway as an indoor navigation finder. That's also going to happen. So just as you'll now be seeing Nextech's, you might not know Nextech made them, but just as you'll be seeing Nextech's 3D models on Amazon, yes, people will be using ARway to figure out how to get to the Starbucks once they land at O'Hare Airport.
And give us the ARway stock symbol again real quick.
Again, it's ARWYF. ARWYF.
F as in Frank?
Correct. Just like NEXCF, there's also an F
at the end.
In ARway stock symbol.
Okay, folks, that'll be the end time. We're already at like 45 minutes. As a reminder, neither Thomas or I are registered brokers or financial advisors. And when you invest, there's always risk, and you take on that risk as an individual if you decide to buy stock in any position. But we do thank you for listening. Again, if you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Money and Politics there with the 2 at the end instead of the CES. And you can please comment and subscribe on YouTube. And you can also write at moneyandpoliticsnow@gmail.com. So thanks so much, folks, and we shall see you later.